are live.
We are live. Welcome to another episode of InfoSec to Insanity. This is episode 40, Matt.
Celebrate that shit.
Celebrate that shit. Today we're
40.
talking about leading with vulnerability. Why showing your human side might be the strongest security strategy yet.
Ooh, interesting.
What do you think? You know, I did a lot of research on this, man, because we're still like, what is this, number 9 or 10? We have one more after this on the
mental health, right?
Yeah. So this is, I did a lot of research on this one. I'm hearing myself. Do you hear me through you?
Nope.
I hear myself through you. It's weird. Are you watching the chat at the same time?
No, hold on. All right.
How's the weather in Wisconsin?
It was actually so yesterday was like one of the hottest, most humid days, and then today it's like 60 and no humidity. It's like perfect today.
Nice. It's hot
yesterday,
here.
Terrible.
Good diving though. You know, John Kittleson's down here. He went on his first ever night dive last night.
Oh, nice. You went with him?
Yeah. No.
No?
I don't remember what I was doing. But I didn't go. Probably because I don't trust him. He's kind of like, you Marines. I don't think you guys pay attention when we go diving. You're going to leave me stranded somewhere.
I only forgot about you one time.
Yeah, and the visibility was shit that day.
Yes, it was. It was.
All right. So, yeah, on this episode, I did a lot of research on leading with vulnerability, and I was kind of happy to find that I think I do that quite a bit, which I think is cool. I don't know. I think you do too, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing to talk about, and I'd like to explore it more for sure.
Yeah, I think it's mostly good things. Leading with vulnerability. Quick overview of the segments for tonight's show. First, we're going to start with what the fuck happened. That's what we do. I've got 5 things on what the fuck happened. Then I just added another one right before the show started. I want to talk about Cloudflare.
Ooh, I missed that one.
Yeah. So we'll do the what the fuck happened. Then we'll do some CISO humor. This is a new segment where, I don't know.
I thought the notes looked pretty funny on that.
We can make it funny. That's for sure. Then we'll do our main topic. Our main topic, again, is leading with vulnerability. And then we'll do a broken industry bullshit and wrap this thing up. How's it sound?
Sounds awesome.
All right, let's roll into what the fuck happened this week. First, Qantas. Some of these we mentioned a little bit maybe last week, but Qantas mega breach, 5.7 million people affected.
That's a lot.
The next series I'm writing is the series on accountability.
Yes, I'm pumped for
that. Yeah, we're going to have a good time. I think it'll be 5 blog posts on that one. So we'll have a good time talking about that stuff. But anyway, here, the Australian airline revealed a massive breach from late June affecting 5.7 million accounts after attackers hijacked a call center vendor platform. So a third party. Allegedly, if you believe the statistics in our industry, which you've got to take them all with a grain of salt, right? 2/3 or more of all data breaches come directly or indirectly from third parties. So third-party due diligence. It's a big deal. Now, on this one, while no financial data, financial information, or passwords were stolen, personal details like names, emails, phone numbers, dates of birth, and frequent flyer IDs were exposed.
So you said you can change your social, right? I've never looked into that.
It's a pain in the ass.
I'm wondering if I can change my date of birth.
No, I don't think so.
Can I change it to like minus or plus 1 day?
I don't think so. You can try it. Yeah, I mean, but you hit on a really interesting point, though. When data is lost or stolen, you can't get it back. The best thing you can do is change it to make it I think less impactful for you and less valuable to the attacker. And to your point, I don't know how you change your date of birth. I don't know how you change your DNA. I don't know how you change your medical information. Those things are pretty much stuck with you. So the suspected culprit on this one, the Scattered Spider Group, using social engineering and multi-factor authentication bypass attacks.
Well, I want to say you wrote here, I don't know if you got it from the thing, but it says sophisticated. Oh no, it does say MFA bypass. My bad.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, what are we considering a bypass? Like, is it technical, or is it still part of social engineering where you're just getting them to click on the push or something?
It's a combination, but it starts with social engineering. It's getting somebody to click on something, and then depending on what the multi-factor authentication you've got in place is, showing that where they type in their PIN number or whatever number they're supposed to get back for the second factor authentication. Let's say it's a text, then the attacker will collect that, log in for you because you're typing it into their site, right? And so they're logging in for you, and then just display like an error message or something to the legitimate user, like, yeah, sorry, service unavailable right now, whatever, right? So they won't suspect anything different. Meanwhile, the attacker logged in for you because they took your second factor and entered it into the real site while that would be one way to bypass MFA. There's a couple dozen ways I think we can do it. So the what the fuck angle on this one, this isn't headline news yet, but salvageable or not, that's 5.7 million people. Granted, it's just data, but that's massive. That's a massive phishing gold mine. If you're in vendor risk, stand up and take a bow or rethink everything. Couple of comedic punchlines to go with this one. Matt, you want to read the first one?
Sorry, I was looking. Where do you want
You
me
weren't
to?
even looking.
No, I was
Forget
trying to find something else that I wanted to bring up, and I didn't want to forget it. So what did you want me
It's
to
almost
read?
like you and I were having a conversation, but you're not. Do you do this in meetings too?
Generally not.
Generally not.
I don't think so.
Just with your buddies.
Just with my good friends, yes.
Okay, there you go. All right. Well, one comedic punchline is 5.7 million travelers just learned that frequent flyer points might be the least valuable thing in their account. Their identity was included for free.
Nice.
Second punchline, when your call center vendor gets popped, remember that's just outsourcing risk, not reducing it.
Yes. Or transferring. It's not transferring either.
No, transferring's insurance, something like that. All right, number 2, McDonald's. We talked a little bit about this last week, but there's a little more information. McDonald's AI hiring bot builder, it was breached. The password was 123456. Researchers accessed McDonald's third-party AI recruiting app called McHire/Olivia using the default 123456 password, then found 64 million records.
Oh my God.
Yeah. The data included names, emails, phone numbers. Thankfully, no financial information, but still a massive haul, again, used for phishing attacks. Right? These are great harvests for people to do spear phishing.
It leads up to something bigger, right?
For sure.
This isn't the end goal.
Right. And the what the fuck angle on this one? This is behavioral economics meets security cliche, an AI-driven platform hacked by humans making lazy security decisions. Great headline, a robot got hosed because no one changed its starter password.
I mean, this is why the relationship with developers is so important, but in my experience, they never want to partner because they have business pressure.
Right. It reminds me when they first came out with DevSecOps, right? This buzzword thing, DevSecOps, like development, working with security, working with operations. And when they came out with it, I was like, oh, what is that? And somebody explained it to me. I'm like, you mean You fuckers weren't doing this already?
Right. Why do we need to put a different name on it?
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, why the hell would you ever develop any commercially viable software without working with security, without working with operations? So I was surprised that there were so many people that weren't, that we had to come up with DevSecOps as a thing.
Oh, and that still doesn't solve it. It's still terrible.
It is. It is. All right. So
I'll do one this time. I'm paying attention now.
all right, give us a comedic punchline for this one, Matt.
Robots were supposed to steal jobs, not personal data.
Right on. And whoever set the admin password to 123456 deserves an honorary degree in dumbsec.
Ooh. Can we like shift left dumbsec or left of boom dumbsec, whatever they're calling
This is
it
left.
nowadays?
This is left to right, dead center dumbsec.
Yeah.
All right, number 3, China-linked hackers eye Taiwan's semiconductor crown. A trio of China-linked APT groups ramped up attacks on Taiwan's chip makers, TSMC, MediaTek, UMC, etc., via spear phishing and spoofed uni email campaigns. These intel harvest operations coincide with escalating chip export restrictions, clear signs of geopolitical saber rattling. Are we surprised?
Nope.
And it's, I mean, we give like hackers so much credit. I mean, hackers do deserve credit, but in a lot of these attacks, it starts with the human element. It starts with phishing. It's, why would I spend, as an attacker, why would I spend, I don't know, hundreds of hours potentially trying to find a vulnerability in some piece of software that you're using when all I have to do is just ask for your damn password? Right? The return on the investment, and it's much more effective because if I'm using a legitimate user account in your system, I don't throw up any red flags in terms of logs.
Mm-hmm. It's just normal.
It's just normal.
It's like I feel like, I don't know, you probably have the same thing, but like I feel like I'm aging in the industry, and it's just like the more and more shit we're selling, the more and more the new wave doesn't want to think about things the right way. They just want to play with the things and do the things and hack. And it's like, okay, technology has a part, but like, let's clean Active Directory. Let's clean Azure. Like, that's the, if that shit's, that's the foundation, man. Come on.
It's the basic
It always
shit, right?
comes back to this. Always.
What, who gives a shit about, you know, your cool LED lights and your awesome windows and window coverings and cool doors and door locks and all this shit when your house has a shitty foundation?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it all comes crashing down. It's just logic, right? It's just reason. It's not like, you know, you're making some shit up. But the what the fuck angle, this is economic and cyber warfare converging. It's not about IDs or personally identifiable information. It's about global tech dominance. Chips equal power.
So I was thinking about this, and right, we're on the winning team. I feel like
not
this
the winning team. We're on the good team. We ain't winning.
We're on the good team.
We're on the losing team. This is like the Packers of like the early 90s.
Oh, like, okay. But I feel like if others are trying to create chips and create innovation, like that's good for everything overall. So like, why are we like trying to cyber crush each other because we want the money? Like, it's just confusing to me.
Well, China traditionally hasn't innovated a goddamn thing.
They steal it.
They steal it. Absolutely. So that's the way they get what they get. And it's a lot, I mean, I guess it's a lot more efficient to just improve somebody else's stuff than it is to develop it yourself. You know, it's certainly less expensive, right? If you spend less money developing shit and you just go around stealing it, then you have more money, I guess, to do other things. Maybe produce more chips, maybe produce more military weapons, you know, whatever. It's like you're letting Taiwan be your research and development operation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's super effective, man. China, if China didn't have the espionage operations and the shit that they do online, I mean, they would be 10, 15, 20 years behind us. But we don't take it seriously. There's no accountability, which is going to be a whole nother series.
Nice.
I know. All right. So Taiwan's chip industry is under siege, but sure, let's keep worrying about TikTok.
I haven't heard about that lately. The last thing I heard was about the Epstein list. We got to focus on that.
That's because people have a very, very shitty memory span.
They do. When your corporate espionage toolkit includes fake university emails, it's less Mission Impossible and more Fish High School.
We should start a show. Do you think we can get a Netflix show called Fish High School?
Ooh, that'd be kind of cool.
That would be kind of cool.
Just all social engineering.
Right. So our fourth what the fuck story this week is Microsoft Oops update. Microsoft accidentally rolled out a faulty Windows update, breaking login systems for thousands of users globally. The company issued a public apology after businesses and schools reported being locked out of devices.
I'm sorry. Yep. Sorry.
Yeah.
Again.
My bad. Not going to have to pay anything or suffer any consequences. It's just, my bad. You know what they should put in their news release? They should put, my bad. What the fuck are you going to do about it?
My bad. Come at me, bruh.
Yeah, exactly. So the what the fuck angle in 2025, after decades, seriously, decades of updates. I remember Microsoft rolling out updates. I remember back when you had to use a command line tool to apply patches. It was called HF NetCheck. So you had to break out to a command line, type, use HF NetCheck to check if you needed patches and then download and apply the patches. That was back in 1996, maybe 1997. So Microsoft has been patching their shit for a long time. So
I just found a user guide for HF NetCheck Pro 4.
There you go. Yep. After decades of updates, Microsoft still bricks systems with bad patches. At this point, Patch Tuesday should just be renamed Pray Wednesday.
That's awesome.
Right? We totally need to make that a thing. Like, just, when you do like hashtags on social, hashtags on social media instead of Patch Tuesday, we'll call it Pray Wednesday.
Hashtag, just every Wednesday, we'll just put it out by itself. Pray Wednesday.
Pray Wednesday again. Yeah. So another Patch Tuesday, another Panic Wednesday.
Microsoft's new security model, Zero Trust, in their own updates. Nice.
I love the. We should come up with a segment of it's just shit on Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
We could come up with so many funny things. So that was supposed to be our end of the what the fuck happened this week. But then I got to thinking about Cloudflare.
Cloudflare heard about this.
Yeah, it was only a few days ago. Cloudflare, and it wasn't. Most people probably didn't notice, but there was a problem with 1.1.1.1. The DNS resolver outage on July 14th. The duration was 62 minutes. So from 21:52 to 22:54 universal time, there's a global outage of Cloudflare's 1.1.1 public DNS resolver and intermittent degradation of gateway DNS. The root cause of this was a misconfiguration in service topology causing BGP route withdrawal of 1.1.1 prefixes. So in general, that wouldn't make, what the fuck happened this week. It's like, okay, 62-minute outage. Most people probably didn't notice it. But then I got to thinking, how many outages has Cloudflare had just over the last year? Because we keep, like I said, I think people just have this short attention span.
Yep.
So on June 12th, 2 days prior to this, Cloudflare had a multi-service outage with workers KV, warp, access, etc. The duration was 2 hours and 28 minutes. The impact, multiple Cloudflare services went down due to a failure in workers KV storage backend via a third-party cloud provider. Core DNS, proxy, and web application firewall remained unaffected, but that was a service outage. Then on June 27th, this is a year ago in 2024, we also had a 1.1.1 resolver degradation. I don't know the exact duration of this one, but the cause was BGP hijacking and route leak affecting 1.1.1 DNS service. So that's 2 BGP problems with 1.1.1.1 over the last little over a year. On June 20th, 2024, we had a DDoS rule error. So impact increased errors and latency due to misconfigured DDoS rule. So that was another misconfiguration issue. In November 28th, 2024, the Instable data center performance issue. That was 24 minutes. Localized network performance degradation in Instable. That's also been resolved. So just off of 5 minutes of research, I came up with 5 Cloudflare outages in the last year.
Yeah, to your point, like I don't think most people would notice, but what I've seen is a lot of these IoT things hard code Cloudflare for their DNS. So,
right,
who knows? We have no idea what all gets broken. It's an outage, but we have no fucking clue.
Exactly. And we have to take their word for it because we don't have any visibility into their shit either.
You could be breaking someone's security monitoring system for their house. You could be breaking their smart refrigerator. I mean, who knows?
Exactly. Yeah. Key takeaways: their main problems in the last 12 months, anyway, have been BGP misconfigurations and withdrawals and third-party dependencies. So they do use external cloud providers to maintain their services. So you always think of Cloudflare like being the shit. Like they don't need any third parties. They got their own infrastructure. They build their own shit. That's not true. Everybody's got third parties.
Everyone's piggybacking off each other.
Yeah.
It's
so
a
Cloudflare
closed loop.
Shout out to Cloudflare and Microsoft, 2 big players in our industry that everybody's dependent on, and everybody trusts the damn cloud. Yet, here we are, and it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse. That's my prediction. All right.
So I got one last thing.
You got one too? So it's going to make it 6, Matt.
Well, so this isn't an incident. This is a peculiar development, I think. It's what the fuck happened, but I'm curious. It's not super new, but I just heard about it. So Denmark is trying to thwart deepfakes by giving everyone copyright to their own features. It seems like they're trying to be forward thinking. They understand technology has outpaced legislation and they want to protect people. And I guess their likeness and features and stuff. Now, how they plan to enforce that or, change what's already out there, no idea. But to me, it's exciting that we're starting to think this way, at least.
Yeah, go for it, Denmark. I'm behind them on that.
Go get it.
Go get it. All right. That's what the fuck happened this week, because in cybersecurity, the hits don't stop, but sometimes your login does. Boom, boom. All right. Let's move on to some humor. Segment 2, CISO humor, the compliance clown and CISO therapy hour. So welcome to this CISO therapy hour where burnout's real, budgets are fake, and the compliance auditor always knocks twice. The first little comedic bit we got: you might be a CISO if. So I've got 3, and I think as we continue to do this, Matt, you'll come up with some yourself. Game?
Okay.
You game?
I'm down. Yeah. You just gotta
All right.
let me know which ones you want to do.
No, I'll do
We-
these, but then when
No, I mean like the bits and the segments. Like we've done a whole bunch of really cool segments.
oh no, we're doing this shit now. This is it. We're stepping in
We're
concrete
in it.
right now.
Okay.
Yep.
I love it.
All right. So you might be a CISO if your idea of a wellness day is finally finishing that vulnerability backlog. You might be a CISO if you automate patching but still manually explain why security matters to the board every single quarter. You might be a CISO if you get more phishing emails than actual work emails, and honestly, the phishing ones are better written.
I like C. Can I say that if you are doing A and B, you're probably doing your job wrong. Or I think you're doing your job wrong.
I think lots of CISOs do their job wrong, but I'm kind of opinionated on those things, right? I mean, when you look at, we talked about it last week, right? When you look at a study or a poll like that, where, who's ultimately responsible for information security and that many people get it wrong.
It's a sign.
Fuck? And who do you expect to get those things right? The leaders in our industry. You expect the CISOs to stand up and say, no, I'm not the one ultimately responsible for information security. But I think lots of CISOs either don't know the answer or they're not really good leaders. They don't stand up. If they don't stand up, who the fuck is going to?
Nobody.
Right.
Because
But,
everyone's just getting paid.
It's a pretty cush, $300,000 a year job, with stock options. So I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to do it the right way. Anyway, this is supposed to be funny, and we just got unfunny right there.
We derailed. All right, let's get back on it with the real CISO quote.
Here's a real CISO quote. This is anonymous, of course. The quote is, if my risk register got any bigger, it'd need its own incident response plan. That's a quote. That's sad.
Yeah.
All right, here's a joke. Auditors asked me how we measure the effectiveness of our zero trust framework. I said by the number of eye rolls in my team meetings. They didn't laugh. I did. What do you think, Matt?
I like that one. Yeah, auditors are not in par with what's actually happening. It's almost like, so in the Marine Corps we did a lot of cross training, right? You'd work with other teams and things like that, and we talk about it in tech, right? Go learn, networking, data, like other things like that. I'm almost thinking we need to have like a rotation where like you're an auditor, you're an incident responder, you're an analyst, like you're rotating through these different segments versus different like tasks, so you can understand the full scale of like what the fuck you're actually doing.
What the fuck are you actually doing? Have you ever asked a CISO? Do you talk to many CISOs?
Some, but I don't ask them what they do.
Yeah.
I kind of just assume that they do. That's a good question. I'll ask them next month.
Yeah, you'll see them at the meeting.
ISSA, right? Yep.
All right. Quick fire rant. SOC 2 is great until your auditor treats common sense like a novel concept. Do you have a policy for that? Yeah, it's called We're Not Idiots. There's sometimes to have policy. I'm pro policy, but I'm pro policy for the policy making sense. I'm not pro policy for filling out, making sure you're good with the audit.
Well, the other piece that I see is people don't know what the fuck a policy is. They're like, I'm going to write policy for this, policy for that, policy for that. And you have like 100 policies. It's like, you probably need like 3. The rest are like standards or something.
Right.
So like, we don't even speak the same language there either.
No, we don't. Well, it's funny because policies. Well, how many policies do you see? Because in the Marine Corps, it was a lot different. When you wrote a policy, you did the fucking policy.
Yeah, it's like didn't have a choice.
You didn't have a choice. In the private sector, that's not how it works.
It's kind of optional. We don't like. We don't want to hurt your feelings.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I understand. If you can, you can. If you can't, I get it. Don't worry about it.
We invested so much time in hiring you. Kind of don't want to ruin the image.
Right. Yeah, we don't want you to be frustrated. We don't
I've
want you. We don't want you to do the right thing.
I probably, what is that? Skylighting myself or whatever it's called. In a meeting, or not a meeting, but like a setting the other day. Like I mentioned this, and there was some HR people around. I was like, do we like really enforce our policies? I know it says like you can up to termination, but like, do we actually? And they're like, well, yeah, like that's like what we do. I'm like, I'm not sure.
Do you really? Because there's been a lot of policy violations I've seen just in my walk to this meeting room today.
It's like, it's only if it's like an HR policy, like physical harm.
It's only if somebody's offended.
Yeah.
And then if you're offended, clearly it says in our policy, there's a safe place for you.
Yes.
So don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We just want you to feel loved and comfortable here while all of our customers get fucked.
Yeah. But, if you're gonna, compromise the entire organization or like, yeah, that's okay. We're cool with it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll probably talk to you about it. I mean, maybe a verbal warning or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I was talking to a security buddy today, and they just had their financial systems get hacked because the CFO fell for a phishing attack and had all the passwords on his machine in an Excel spreadsheet. That's your CFO, for crying out loud.
I've never heard of passwords being in spreadsheets before.
Oh, come on. You have to. Yeah, exactly. All right. So CISOs, remember, you're not alone. Somewhere out there, another CISO just found a shadow IT tool, and they cried silently too.
I don't want to say anything. We'll just let it. We don't call it shadow IT. We call it business unit or what the fuck? I can't think of the word right now.
Just come up with some name for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so stick around because up next we're flipping the script with a deep dive into vulnerability, and not the kind in your SIEM, your SIM logs. So the main topic tonight, leading with vulnerability.
Do you say SIM or SIEM? Like I say SIM. I think
I say SIM.
Silent. Yeah. I hear people say SIEM, and
what are you, fucking German?
Sounds like something else.
Yeah, are you German?
All right, I just want to make sure I'm not crazy.
No, I call it SIM too. But if somebody did call it SIEM, I get it. It's like when people talk like CISSP. I've always called it CISSP, and then you have people call it CISP.
It's weird. In the military, we always like say the acronym, right? CISSP. But on the SIEM, I don't say CIEM.
Right.
Kind of funny. It's like we pick and choose.
We do. And there's no like rule. Like where's the policy on this shit?
We need to enforce that policy.
Should we write a policy? Should we write an acronym policy?
Yeah. Oh, that might stop vendors from making more new ones. Like if you want to make a new acronym, you got to go to the board of acronyms.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a really good idea, because if you wrote like an acronym policy for your company and then a vendor calls and says a new acronym or says the acronym incorrectly, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you anymore. That's a policy violation.
Yes. Shut
and then
that down.
Then hang up on them.
Yeah. Or it's not on our approved list of acronyms.
Right. Yeah, there you go. That'd be good. All right. So the main topic, leading with vulnerability. In an industry obsessed with strength and certainty, what if the most powerful move a security leader can make is to admit they're human? It's about leading with vulnerability. And so that's what the blog post was written, I don't know how long ago. It was probably 2 months ago now. this blog post on leading with vulnerability and how it's good for your mental health and it's good for the mental health of your team. So why this matters? I mean, culture, right? It's about culture. It's about leading from this vulnerable position, sharing personal stories, all these things. It builds trust, it builds loyalty, it encourages innovation, it enhances team resilience, it reduces workplace stress, it attracts and retains talent. All really important things for any leader. And so what does it mean to lead with vulnerability? When I say something like that, Matt, what do you think about when I say lead with vulnerability?
So I was thinking about this earlier. I think initially what came to my mind was caring about the people and being like empathetic, but then I was like, fuck that, I'm a Marine. And now like hearing this, it's about me being open, and then that portrays down to them that they can be open, and that creates real connection.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
But
so.
so now my question, okay, being vulnerable, what do you think is what do you think is the, or maybe is there a best way, like do you do this in a one-on-one setting like with your leaders, or are you like doing this in like your entire staff meeting? Like if you, oh, we made a mistake picking this, you tell it to your direct report or the whole team?
I think it depends. I mean, I don't think there's any one way. I think what's important in leading with vulnerabilities is just being honest, just being real, being transparent. You know, admitting things like I'll give you, 5 tips, because I did some research, leading into this one. How leaders can lead with vulnerability. Number one is share personal stories and challenges. So when you share your personal stories, it makes it relevant. People can relate to it. People can, because then people will talk to you, right? So you share your experiences, you share your struggles. For example, admitting to past mistakes or uncertainties about a decision can create relatability. And there's research behind this, right? It's not just like, well, it just feels good and make them feel good. Research from Harvard Business Review 2020 suggests storytelling fosters emotional connections, enhancing team cohesion. The teams that I lead, we do battle together.
An
Right?
incident
And
response, right? It's a battle.
incident response or anything strategic, right? Our mission is to fix a broken industry. So we need to work together on this shit. Like understanding that our approach needs to be, very similar. But I mean, every time you kind of walk out the door, it's kind of enemy territory. Right. And so having that cohesion, having us working together, having us understand each other. I mean, think of the teams, in the military. Think of like a SEAL team, for instance. They know each other intimately. They know their habits. They know what to, their little quirks, because you have to. I know that Johnny always steps a little bit, to the right on this movement or something, right? So you compensate for that shit, but you have this cohesion. And the only way you get that cohesion, I think, is just to be open and honest. This is how I operate. This is what I do. This is what I'm really fucking good at. This is what I really suck at. This is where I've made mistakes. So, hey guys, let's try not to make the same fucking mistakes I just made. But all that comes from being vulnerable, because the world will tell you that vulnerability is a weakness, because that's the definition of the word. Vulnerability is a weakness.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, leading with vulnerability, I think, is an incredible strength. I have fantastic teams. And I think I owe most of that to, not because I'm such a great leader or I'm inspiring or any other bullshit. I think it's because I'm vulnerable. I'm just me. My teammates and the people on my teams feel comfortable being themselves, sharing their perspectives, speaking up if something's fucked up. And the only way they would feel that is like, I mean, how many teams have you been on in the past where somebody doesn't say something because they're afraid of what's going to come back?
It happens too often.
Yeah, which is bullshit.
It's either they think it's going to come back, or they've been there so long and they're beat down and they don't think they're going to get heard.
And what kind of way is that to lead, right? As a leader, I want to know my blind spots. I want to know what the fuck is wrong so we can fix it. Right? How many, the worst thing, my biggest fear is something going wrong and I never saw it coming. Somebody else did, but I didn't because somebody didn't feel comfortable telling me. And sometimes people get intimidated just by titles. I had one time where I had a bunch of people, my leadership team and others here, and one of them came up to me and said, "Hey, so and so, we had conversations, whatever," and they were drunk, right? I wasn't, but and they were like, "He doesn't feel comfortable telling you," and I'm like, "Why the fuck wouldn't he feel comfortable telling me? I mean, this is me. This is how I roll." And we sort of came to the conclusion it was because I was the CEO. And so I'm like, give me another fucking title then.
Just call me the Whisperer.
Call me, yeah, give me if I have to have a C-level cook, give me a CFU. Chief fuck up. I mean, if that makes him feel more comfortable telling me shit, then let's go with that. So sharing personal stories and challenges, admitting limitations and seeking input, acknowledging when we don't have all the answers, and inviting team input encourages collaboration. A 2022 study from the Journal of Leadership Studies found that leaders who admit knowledge gaps are perceived as more authentic and approachable. To that same point.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I'm just wondering, us tech people, security people, we tend to think we're super smart. And I wonder if the word vulnerability trips us up. Like you said, it's not a tech vulnerability. We're not being like socially engineered vulnerable, but like we're being relationship vulnerable. And I think that's different.
I think one of the worst true vulnerabilities, I mean, if you want to talk true vulnerability, is pride, is blind spots. And so when you think you have your shit together, yeah, of course you're fucking smart. I'm smart. Me having weaknesses, me identifying where I'm good and where I'm not good actually makes me smarter. Because you walking through life thinking that, okay, I don't have these things, or I don't have vulnerabilities, or I can't share these vulnerabilities because it'll make my team think I'm less than what I am. I mean, whatever bullshit you're going through on that, that's actually a really, really big weakness. In my opinion. All right. Express empathy and emotional awareness. This is another way you can lead with vulnerability, showing genuine care for team members' feelings, not in some pussy way, not like, whatever, but we all have feelings. For example, addressing burnout openly. It's a thing. Are we going to be ignorant and say it's not a thing? Do you know somebody who's like immune to it?
No.
I mean, so addressing burnout openly, it builds psychological safety. Not the pussy kind of safety, not the fake drama safety, the real safety. The safety when you actually need safety. Like if you don't get something fixed or adjusted, it'll kill you kind of safety. So Google's Project Aristotle in 2015 highlighted psychological safety as critical for high-performing teams. I mean, I think we want high-performing teams. I think Google probably has a few high-performing teams. And if all it takes is for me to express empathy and emotional awareness, sign me up. That's my default anyway. I think for some people, you have to learn this. But I genuinely give a shit.
I try to go back and forth. Like, am I doing it right, or maybe I'm thinking too much because others aren't, right? Like I'm totally analytical. Like I feel like you can do all of those things, but still keep people accountable. And I think it goes back to feedback, right? I think we've talked about it before too. Like you can be a good person, you can still suck at your job. I mean, the two aren't exclusive.
Right.
If you need feedback on how to be better person, we can talk about empathy, emotional
Mm-hmm.
intelligence. If you need help being a better worker, we can talk about time management, stuff like that. It's two separate things, and I feel a lot of people put them together.
Yeah. Well, and that's why we have this. I think it's important to have these discussions. Because I think we have a lot of misconceptions on the way people lead, on what's the right way to lead, to create the most effective, high performance team. That doesn't mean the team doesn't make mistakes. It means the team that makes the mistakes. We have a saying at FR Secure that failure is not an option. It's fucking mandatory.
Hmm.
If you're not failing once in a while, but the thing is, when we do that and we're open and we're honest and we're transparent about it, the team can step up and fill those gaps. But it's when you're failing, that's when you're learning. When shit just goes right all the time, I mean, the fuck? That's easy. But if you want to solve difficult problems, you're gonna have to get comfortable failing. And failure, according to this leading with vulnerability thing, failure looks pretty damn vulnerable to a lot of people. All right, another thing to learn how to lead with vulnerability: be transparent about decisions. Explaining the why behind tough choices, even when outcomes are uncertain, fosters trust. A 2023 McKinsey report noted transparent communication during uncertainty reduces employee anxiety and boosts engagement. Now, you don't have to lead from a way that where I owe people a why, but I think it's better if you do. Because, there's that book, going back to that book by Simon Sinek, start with why. People buy into the why. If they understand the purpose behind what you're trying to accomplish and the purpose behind the decisions that you're making as a leader, they'll get behind you.
You just have to make sure it's not just lip service.
No, yeah, you got to be held accountable to that shit,
Hmm.
which is the last one. By the way, that's the last way that we can lead with vulnerability, is model accountability. So I'm glad you brought that up. That was a perfect transition into the last one. Owning up to the errors and taking corrective action demonstrates integrity. Good leaders, we got to be held to the standard, man. It's not that, yeah, I'm a fuck up, but when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do something. When you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. A 2021 Gallup study showed that accountability in leaders correlates with higher employee trust and productivity. So this is all good shit, is it not?
I think so.
I mean, I don't know why I wouldn't want to lead with vulnerability. The thing is, though, is you have to kind of put, in my opinion, again, and that's what this whole damn series is about, right? It's just my own experiences with this shit and what I think. And I'd love to hear alternative views. If somebody thinks, no, you don't lead that way, you never show any weakness when you lead. You lead like you got the shit together. You're dressed to a T. You don't mess up nothing. You're like the shit. If that's the way you think that lead, I'd love to talk to you, because I'd love to figure out how the fuck that works for you. And I'd love to
How
figure out
are
what team you're actually leading. Is it like you and your cat?
how are you alive? Like not burnt out and alive?
Well, you'll probably
Yeah.
find out it's all lies. It's got to be, because I don't know how that would work. All right. So why it's good. Let's go through 5 things on why it's good to lead with vulnerability. Number 1, it builds trust and loyalty. Some of these we've already touched on a little bit. What I mentioned before was how to do it. I think this is why. If you want these things in your team, and everybody's a damn leader. Sometimes you lead a friend group, sometimes you lead at home, sometimes you lead, a team, a department, a division, an entire company. I mean, whatever. These are all things that I want when I lead. And I know that when I lead with vulnerability, these are the things that I get. Number one, it builds trust and loyalty. Vulnerability signals authenticity, making teams feel safe to share ideas or concerns. That's so fucking important. The team, the executive management team that I, have the honor of leading today is really, really, really damn good at what they do. So they need to feel safe sharing ideas or concerns. They need to feel safe with, I'll give you an example. There was a time semi recently, I'm not going to tell you exactly when, but when it was obvious that we weren't going to hit our quarterly, we weren't going to hit our annual goals in terms of revenue for the business. And what often happens when you don't have the trust and the loyalty and people are afraid to share things with you is you find out at the end of the year. You find out like December that we're not going to make it. That's the wrong way. When you lead with trust and loyalty and this vulnerability, they share it with you as soon as they have the concern that they may not make it. And then you talk about reasons why they may not make it and, how to adjust and all that other shit. A lot of times, I mean, it even comes down to survival if you don't have that trust and loyalty. A 2022 Edelman Trust Barometer reported that trust in leaders drives employee retention and innovation. I kind of want retention.
Yeah, that seems to not be a thing in the 2020s.
The 2020, yeah, it really isn't. Especially in this industry. I was just talking with my buddy Brad Nye.
That's weird. I said the 2020s. Fuck, that sucks.
Why? Oh, that's because that's what it is now.
In the year 2000, that was like a song. That's fucking crazy.
2000. Anyway. Shit, I don't even remember 2000. I was still drinking back then. But we've got like no turnover. Well, not no. It's very, very, very small, which is awesome. From a business perspective, you build a team that is vulnerable, that leads with integrity, that has this trust and loyalty. And the thing from a business perspective, when you have turnover, that's expensive. I don't know what the data is, but it's like when you replace an employee, isn't it like almost like 12 months of salary or something to get them, to have to hire that position again and get them integrated with the team or something like that?
Well, yeah, it takes. I mean, people think, oh, well, you can just hit the ground running, but you can't. You have to, culture adjustment, relationship building. You don't just want to jump into the tech stuff right away in that 6-9 months.
Right.
Plus, you got to look. Yeah, recruiting costs, whatever.
I'm telling you, man. And like with when you lead with vulnerability too, you can talk about things that affect work performance that aren't directly work related. You can talk about health issues. You can talk about gambling issues, alcohol issues, drug issues, marriage issues. And you would never know about those things were there unless you were leading with vulnerability, unless I had shared my own stories with these things. Another reason why it's good to lead with vulnerability, it encourages innovation. When leaders model openness, teams feel empowered to take risks. There's that failure isn't optional thing again.
Fail forward.
Yeah. A 2020 Stanford study. Stanford knows shit.
Maybe we should come up with
smart people.
I'm thinking we should come up with a football analogy to, try to sink this home, right? Football players, running backs, they teach you when you're running the ball, fall forward. you get that extra yardage. Fail forward, get that extra experience. I think
Yeah,
that's
I think
gold.
so. Yeah, I think there's some of that, and there's like when you play football, you learn to play your position, and you trust your teammates that they're playing their positions. Right? You could be the best damn. In high school, I played linebacker, and I could be the best damn linebacker ever. Be right in position, plug the gaps I'm supposed to be plugging, all that other shit. But if the other linebacker is not doing their shit, or your defensive line is fucked, or whatever, if other parts of the team don't work together, it doesn't matter. The team loses. And so we have to have this trust. We have to have this, yeah, this trust, loyalty. If whenever you had new players come in, it wasn't the same team. So if you had turnover on your team, sometimes you didn't have a choice. Sometimes it was an injury, but sometimes people left the team for disciplinary reasons or whatever. It wasn't the same team. It took a while to get that going again. And in terms of encouraging innovation in football, you always worked on the fundamentals, right? All your drills were always fundamentals all the time. And it wasn't until you spent X amount of time in practice working on the fundamentals that you could get together with your position players and start innovating, start thinking of new plays, new ways to move. So yeah, the football analogy certainly works, man. Lots of ways. And the failing thing, like failing forward as a running back, but also like if the offensive line, the defensive line, they were pushed to where it created a gap, right? I mean, ideally your defensive line wouldn't have any gaps, right? But that's not reality. That's not how it works. They create a gap. There's the failure. Linebacker plugs it. If the linebacker can't plug it, well, then your defensive back or safety might have to come up and plug that gap. You know what I mean? Does that work?
Yes, I like it.
All right. So 2020 Stanford study found that psychologically safe environments fostered by vulnerable leadership increased creative output by 20%. That's 20 fucking percent.
That's what does
That's
that
huge,
mean?
man.
What does
Well, it's like
20% mean though?
that means if you had a 4-person team or a 5-person team, it's like a one whole new hire. So I don't need to hire that person. I got 20% more output out of this team.
My team's doing their job.
Yeah, fostered by that leading with vulnerability. Enhances team resilience, sharing challenges openly, helps teams navigate uncertainty together. This is huge for us, because a lot of times we're doing things we've never seen before. We don't know how to handle it. Being open and honest. Like the last thing I want is, somebody in an instant investigation who's never seen something before to act like they've seen it before. You're going to fuck up everything. But if you feel comfortable with this vulnerability, like I've never seen this before, it creates the team piece. The team can now share this experience together. A 2023 Deloitte survey found that vulnerable leaders improve team adaptability during crisis by 15%. Leading with vulnerability is awesome, man.
It just sounds like, why not?
Well, because I think you have to feel comfortable in your own skin, right? I have to be comfortable. Like, is it going to be okay if my team knows that I'm a fuck up in certain areas of my life?
I wonder if HR ruins that too. Like, if I say something and it's going to HR, all these concerns about HR. I wonder if that limits that too.
I don't know. I mean, it's worth a discussion with HR. I mean, if you can use these types of studies to back why you do what you do, and then show me how this is bad for human resources, how it's bad for culture, how it's bad for the organization. Does executive management not want a 25% increase in productivity from my team? Does executive management not want 15% improvement in adaptability during an incident response?
Oh hell yeah.
Right. So, and it's not me who did these damn studies, right? It's Stanford, it's Deloitte who did these studies. So I think it's worth a conversation with HR. Why would this be any violation of the way we conduct business? I'm obviously not sharing things that are, I think, extremely, maybe fringe, uh, um, things like this is my preferred sexual position. I mean, there's got to be a line drawn in the sand, but maybe this is worth maybe a transparency or a vulnerability policy even. I don't know. I mean, if it becomes an HR issue where people are uncomfortable with it, I don't know. Personally, I wouldn't work. I mean, I'm older now and, I get to be choosier in where I work, but I wouldn't work for a non-vulnerable leader. I want a leader who's situationally, emotionally aware, who leads, as a genuine person, shares their vulnerabilities, shares their strengths, all with the focus of trying to lift the team up. Work reduces workplace stress. Have you ever been stressed at work, Matt?
Never. Every
Yeah,
day.
me neither.
Every day.
Well, transparency about challenges normalizes imperfection, lowering employee stress. A 2021 APA study linked empathetic leadership to a 25% reduction in workplace anxiety.
I mean, it's like we're all the same and we're all dealing with the same things. So let's just talk about it.
Yeah, stop. And to summarize, it's like stop the bullshit. Why are people buying into the bullshit? I mean, it's crazy. And when you like have real conversations about shit like this with people, they're like, yeah, I guess I kind of run out of justifications and reasons to not be just me. All right. And the last one, it attracts and retains talent. Younger workers, especially Gen Z, value authenticity. A 2024 LinkedIn report, that's this last year, noted 68% of Gen Z workers prefer leaders who are open about their struggles. And I can report on this too. I mean, FR Secure has no problems with retention and no problems attracting talent. There's a lot of people that come want to work at FR Secure, and we get fucking amazing people. And I think it starts with leading. That starts with, well, maybe it does start with, but I think a big part of it is leading with vulnerability. It's crazy, man. I mean, and the thing is, it's not that fucking hard. Just be you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's actually easier for me just to be me than to be some fucking version of me that I think you're going to like for some fucking reason.
Some corporate, thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some caveats, I think, you kind of hit on a little bit. Vulnerability, it has to be strategic, right? Oversharing, appearing incompetent in your vulnerability can certainly undermine your credibility. So as leaders, I think we need to balance our openness with confidence, ensuring that vulnerability aligns with the context and the audience, right? There's certain things that I'll share in a small group team setting that I would never share at a board meeting. There are things that I would share in a one-on-one conversation with a leader that I would not share with a team. And I don't have a hard set formula on how that shit works. One of my mentors, growing up through work stuff was, he was always on my ass about understanding my audience. Like you dress different for these people than you do for these people. You talk a little bit different. You know what I mean? So it's not like you're compromising your realness. You're just kind of buffering it a little bit. Right? Because if you don't, you will look incompetent. you will undermine your credibility. So, for instance, sharing personal struggles in a high stakes board meeting, probably not going to go so well.
Probably not.
But sharing my personal struggles with the president of FR Secure, who's my report, absolutely. It builds such a strong relationship that we have together where I feel like Oscar and I can talk about anything. He's like a brother to me. And there are times, and I'll speak on behalf of, we had John Harmon on here once, and John is also a leader, I think, that leads with vulnerability. Sometimes when you lead with vulnerability, he had to fire one of his direct reports who happened to be, his best friend. So you still have to make tough decisions. You still have to do tough things, but they're still friends. They're still best friends. So that's awesome shit. So by leading with vulnerabilities, leaders create environments where trust, innovation, and resilience thrive. If you don't like that shit in your team, then don't be vulnerable. Be the same shitty ass self you've been this whole time, and then wonder why nobody trusts me. Fuck, we just follow the same damn process every time. We've never fixed a damn thing since we got here. And I got turned over like a motherfucker, except for Tommy. Tommy's been here for 35 years, and Tommy's just comfortable being a dipshit. Tommy's just comfortable being a dipshit. So if you want that kind of team, don't lead with vulnerability. If you want a team, I think, and it's not like this is the only thing it takes to run a fucking awesome team or be an awesome leader, but it can't be overlooked, man. You got to lead with vulnerability. What do you think, Matt?
I agree. I mean, the metrics, speak for themselves. We know what we think about metrics, but someone did some research and found, it's valuable, and you have success with it. So sounds legit to me.
Yeah, I don't know any other way to lead. But yeah, I think we've all seen leaders who never show any vulnerability. And we've probably seen leaders that overshare vulnerability. And maybe I fit more in that group than I do in the first. But my team loves me. I love my team. So I'm probably not going to change too much. And there's never anything to hide. It's not like they find out later, like, oh, wait a second. You said this. That's not true. It's true as fuck. Another thing about being vulnerable that I just thought of that helps me as a leader is it helps keep me honest. When I share shit, and then, one of my teammates will be like, hey, you said this thing, why aren't you doing it? Sometimes I forget. Sometimes I lose my way. Sometimes I need, if leaders lose their way, they're not infallible. So sometimes I need members of my team to help get me back on the path. It's important.
Pull you forward.
Damn straight. So here's two myths really quick. One myth I hear a lot is admitting gaps equals losing respect. The truth is the opposite. Pretending perfection is guaranteed failure. So your team's going to fail, guaranteed, if you pretend to be perfect. Another myth, being vulnerable undermines authority. You see this, I think, sometimes in military situations, probably. Like if I'm vulnerable, it's going to undermine my authority. Maybe that's true in a military environment where you have much more strict rules and where you actually follow the fucking policy that's been written. But in the private sector, the truth is it strengthens your credibility. So that's that, Matt. You got anything to add on leading with vulnerability?
No, sir. I think.
No, sir. Wow, I got a sir out of you?
Yes, sir. 2 sirs. 3.
Amen. All right. So nothing to add. Would you consider yourself a vulnerable leader?
I feel like I am. I don't know if others are, or others would say. I feel like I'm still growing.
We all are, dude.
Hmm.
We all are. That's one of those things too. Like when you feel it, it seems like that's always when I get hit the hardest. Like I make the biggest mistakes when I think I got it figured out. So
Yeah.
I try really hard to, and I also watch my team, like when they're like walking around like their shit doesn't stink. It's like, man, you're about ready to get hit by a 2x4.
Got to check yourself.
Yeah. Because it always hurts the worst when that shit happens. All right. So closing thought: in security, we're expected to protect everything. We, me, you, we are expected to protect everything, but sometimes leading means dropping the armor and letting people see the human behind the title.
I like the dropping armor. Yep.
That's because you like to take your pants off. Yeah, I
Eh,
mean, right? I mean, the right in the right context, I think.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, you
yeah.
know. All right. So the last segment we have before we wrap this thing
So
up.
hold
Oh
up before we jump into
shit,
this transition. I just found late breaking news to add to our what the fuck that I wanted to bring up.
dude, that
Just
was like two
found
segments
this.
ago. But I
Yeah,
like
I
how you
know.
made it like breaking news.
Yeah,
We
we need
should
to
have a
put a
thing going
thing.
across the
Yeah,
screen. Yeah,
yeah.
fuck yeah. What do you got?
Breaking news. Salt Typhoon back at it again. So this is DHS report, Office of Intelligence, reporting from NBC News. You like how I'm building this up.
Right.
Apparently, there was a breach at the Army National Guard network by Salt Typhoon. This had gone on from March 2024 to December 2024, and this write up was published June, and it was now just known. So like, see how long this shit takes to like. That just bothers me so much.
Yeah.
But they're basically saying everything put across the network at that time probably assume it was compromised.
So 8 months of network traffic
Mm-hmm.
across the National Guard network
Yep.
compromised. All right. Well, that's good.
They got some
Salt Typhoon is Chinese people, by the way.
part of the 100-year plan, which I was looking at apparently. Um, they published some CVEs and some IP addresses in this report. You can probably just Google DHS Salt Typhoon. I think NBC put this up publicly. It's got the official document here.
When was that published? Is that published today? Is that what makes it breaking?
So when I found it on the Googles, it said it was published a couple hours ago. The timestamp on here says the 15th. So
All right.
contributed to DocuCloud on the 15th. So I don't know. Either way, it's pretty new on the wire.
On the wire.
On the line. Yep.
All right. Segment 4, the last segment for tonight. If we can go, are we good, Matt?
Yes, we're good.
We're good.
Yes,
Breaking
sir.
news.
Yes.
All right. So coming up next, we fix the broken industry one nonsense dashboard at a time. Broken industry fix list. Welcome to the broken industry fix list, because security is not just broken, it's damn dysfunctional. Let's fix one piece at a time. This week's fix: stop pretending risk is a dashboard metric.
Mm.
It's
Hmm.
crazy how many people, when I ask them give me the definition of risk,
Hmm.
and they're like, you know, it's two things. It's pretty simple: likelihood and impact. Likelihood and impact of what? A threat compromising a vulnerability.
Hmm.
So if you have a threat, if there's no threat and you have a vulnerability, there's no risk because there's no likelihood and impact.
Hmm.
And same the other way around, right? If there's no vulnerability, bring all the threats you want. There's still no risk, right? Now, that's why it's always relative, right? Risk is always on a scale of something, and I had my own. When I was the CISO for MGI Pharma, which is one of the best jobs I ever had. My peers, CFO, C whatever O's, whatever the rest of them were. But the CFO in particular would always give me shit when we walked into our meetings. So, Evan, are we secure today? And then he'd laugh. I'm like, and it dawned on me, like, after, it bugged me every time. And then it dawned on me, like, you don't even know what the fuck you're asking. You don't even know what secure means. And so it led to like this obsession of what is secure? Secure is risk management. Well, then what is risk? Likelihood of something bad happening, impact if it did. Break it all down, apply it to the environment. And then when you ask me, are we secure? It's got to be relative, right? It can't be yes or no. It's not a binary question. It's some degree of yes, some degree of no. And that's what risk is, right? So it's not that it's bad that it's a dashboard metric. It's what does the dashboard metric represent? And I just wrote a blog post today, actually, on the difference between data and information.
Mm-hmm.
I like data.
I learned about that in college.
I don't fucking like information. Unless I trust where the information came from and all that other stuff. But the difference is data is the shit. That's the messy, that's the facts. Whereas information is somebody's interpretation of that. Right? So fixing the broken industry, I mean, if this game is risk management, then understand what the fuck risk is. The risk reports that you see so often, I think, in this industry are filled with these percentages, pie charts, red, yellow, green dashboards that don't mean shit. They don't represent likelihood and impact. They don't represent threats and vulnerabilities.
I mean, just Google CISO dashboard and look at the clusterfuck of shit that,
right?
My God.
Right.
This one even says risk percentage, risk breakdown, but it's still like, I mean, it feels like they're just plopping the word risk on it.
Right. I've even gotten into arguments before with people that say that because risk is always based on a negative outcome, right? It's the likelihood and impact of something bad happening. And so I've had people argue with me, well, you can have positive risk. I'm like, what the fuck is positive risk? And the reason why this came about, it was actually the PMI, the Project Management Institute, came out with this. They were the first ones that I think I remember using this positive risk thing. And I'm like, there's still no such thing as positive risk. And so somebody argued with me, well, think, because I have a financial background when I was a stockbroker and all that shit. And he's like, well, like when you take a risk on like a stock, you could make money. And like, that's not called risk, that's called reward. And what you're referring to is a risk reward ratio, right? The higher the risk, the higher the potential reward. That's the thing about a risk reward ratio, but they're two different things. There's no positive risk. Well, I mean, if I did this thing, something positive could happen. That's a positive thing. That's a reward. That's a benefit, whatever you want to call it. It ain't a risk. So anyway, people smile at metrics. People are impressed by metrics, then the next breach happens. They're like, well, what the fuck? Anyway, risk isn't a number unless you apply a number to it. This is another thing about, people that get all fucked up with this risk thing. Metrics, right? What's a metric? What makes a metric valid? What makes a metric invalid? Then really there's only three things. If you want to put a metric, you don't have to overthink it, but these three things always have to be true. Number one, the metric represents what it's supposed to, it represents the data, right? It represents what it's supposed to represent. And I always like to use the metric of distance, like an inch. That's because everybody can relate to an inch. So number one, it has to be relevant. Well, this is relevant, right, to distance. When I take your, that's relevant. Number two, it has to be consistent, consistently applied. An inch is an inch, no matter where the fuck you put the inch. It's still a goddamn inch. And number three, it has to be objective. There's no bias in it. An inch is an inch. You look at it, that's an inch. And so then that's one thing with metrics in our industry is I think people get wrapped up around, they just create a metric and it doesn't match those three things. The second thing we do is when it does match those three things, we argue about whose metric is better.
Because we all want the fame. We all want to be in control. Ego.
Right. And so noticing that this was a problem a while back, that's why we created the S2 score. Right. It fits those three criteria. And then you hear people like, well, I use this. That's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. What would be helpful, though, is if we're going to work together, is how do I translate my number into your number and vice versa? And using that same distance analogy, an inch is 2.54 centimeters. So if you're using a metric and I'm using, imperial system, rather than us arguing about whose is better, use whatever the fuck you want. Right. So tying all that back to risk, I think a lot of people don't think about that shit. They just use their clickety button things and, we have to fix that shit.
Buy their tools.
Yeah. Here's a real world example. I once saw a company reporting a 17.3% reduction in cyber risk. The next month they had a ransomware attack. I guess that 17% wasn't enough, or maybe that 17.3% reduction left that other part of the risk, right? Because again, it's not binary.
Maybe they weren't focusing on the most important risk, or maybe risk is still risk, right? Like you said, it's...
Yeah. The fix, ditch the dashboards as your primary risk communication tool, unless it actually represents, and be able to support the data that's in the dashboard with true data, not information. That's a big difference. Instead, talk about actual impacts. Translate risk into human and business terms. Actionable challenge this week, stop by your ops team or executive suite and ask a real question about risk. Got the balls for it? Do it. Ask them what their definition of risk is. Obviously, you don't want to do it. You want to do it in the right way. I don't know what your relationship is with executive management. I mean, it's kind of insubordinate to walk up and say, "Oh yeah, well, what's your definition of risk?" It's probably not the best way to ask. It's probably like, "Hey, I'm curious," just to align, our definition of risk on the security side of the house. How do you envision risk? What does risk mean to you? How do you define it so that we can make sure that we're in alignment with what you expect as you run this business? Right? That's probably a more legit way to ask it.
I tried talking risk to my ops team. I did like a whole presentation and they're like, all right, so like, what do you want me to do? Just like, so like action oriented. I'm like, well, that's why we come up with like, I don't know, the severity to help you answer the question you always ask, what is the priority? Well, here's your sign.
I mean, if they're asking like, what do you want us to do? It's like, are you asking for like, from a work perspective, or like, is this an opportunity for me to give you some fucking homework? So I'd like to give you some homework. What I want you to do is I want you to go home and think of 3 risks that you accepted today.
That you didn't write down or communicate.
That you just inherently dealt with them, right? Your mind calculates. That's the thing that's a big challenge between risks that are, I think, abstract, like information security risk, versus risks in daily life, right? You make a risk. I always use the analogy of, you're driving down the road, the stoplight changes from green to yellow.
Do you punch it or break it?
Yeah, you immediately do a risk calculation, and you're not immediately. Some people just suck at that too, but you think about road conditions. You think about how fast am I going? What's the distance from the intersection right now? You're looking for cross traffic. You're looking for cops being around you right now. You're playing all this shit out in your mind before you make that risk decision, and it happens so quickly. And then you make the risk decision. Either you break or you go for it. It's like that, but a whole bunch of shit, and it's just abstract, right? And that's why I think for people that have been doing risk management and information security for a really long time, it is kind of second nature now. But for people that haven't done this before, it's all new. It's all foreign. I think it's just the way it works. All right, that's this week's Broken Industry Fix. Stay tuned. Next episode, we'll fix yet another thing nobody else wants to talk about.
We might even get a sneak peek into a chapter of Evan's book.
I think we will. I've been writing a lot lately. I kind of like writing. It's like therapy. Like if you put the emphasis in the wrong place with therapy, it's the rapey.
Therapy is what I call it.
The rapey. The rapist.
Therapy.
Weird. All right, that wraps up this episode of InfoSec to Insanity. Today, we learned that vendors still can't set passwords. Microsoft's updates break more than they fix. And leading with vulnerability might just save your leadership soul.
Leadership soul.
Your soul. If you laughed, cringed, or learned something today, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button, leave a review, share this episode with someone who needs to know their dashboards aren't risk management, unless they don't suck. Maybe they're good risk. Maybe they're good dashboards. I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you if it's anything about your firewall or phishing metrics, it's probably not right.
No, God, no. Please don't share that with the board anymore. That's a stupid shit. All right. And if you've got your own stories, seriously, if you've got your own stories of broken security, CISO misery, or leadership wins, drop us a note. We do read them. And what's the email address? Oh, info@. Oh, wait. I'll get the email address next episode. I forgot what it is.
You can put it on the channel.
You could do that. But then everybody's going to see it, and then that'd be totally transparent.
We don't want to do that because that's bad, right?
Oh God, no! Fuck. Just think what the people are going to think.
They're going to think we're all kinds of weak and stuff.
People might actually find out that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about on the thing that you were telling everybody that you knew what you were talking about.
Oh shit!
Yeah. All right. Next week we're turning the heat up again in episode 41. It's already live on the InfoSec to Insanity YouTube channel. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. Until then, stay human, stay paranoid. We'll see you in the trenches.
Have a good evening.
You got anything, Matt? That's it?
You stay classy. Don't forget to hydrate.
Hydrate? Who the fuck does that? Do people still do that?
You should. In the Marine Corps, we used to say hydrate or die. We had a whole ditty thing. You like open your canteen, you had to like say this ditty. And then slam 2 quarts of water and then 2 more. Sometimes we drank like 6 quarts of water and they didn't let you go to the bathroom. That was the thing.
That's awesome.
Anyway.
All right, man. We'll check you.